Hang on, y'all. We got some bad weather coming our way. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820 93.3 FM WBAP. Welcome to the big show. And we're starting off today with DFW weather legend Brad Barton. That's how serious it is. Now, we've been getting news for a while that we were going to get some bad weather this afternoon. It seems to have gotten worse, though, since I first checked this morning, Brad. What does that mean, moderately severe? Like severe or not? Okay. Well, we had some bad weather this weekend. We actually lost a couple of our neighbors, and there was a terrible report on WFAA where another couple, one of them had broke their neck and one of them had broken their back when their house collapsed. Is it going to be that bad? That's ridiculous big. So I'm looking at your radar on WBAP.com, and you mentioned the purple part. Is that where the hail's happening? So you say that the hail risk is strongest from 4 to 7. By the time that rolls around, this will be way moved over to the east, and it will be where like around Denton ish. Oh, Well, I feel like the after the news we got over the weekend with people getting hurt and killed in bad weather, that we sort of need to reassert the importance of what we're talking about here. Even if you don't see rain outside right now, and I don't even see where the storm's going to come from 4 to 7. You said it's going to be over DFW. Is it going to come out of that little tiny dot that's straight west of us, or the clouds that are south of us? Where's it going to come from? Okay. All right. How would you describe the tornado watch and tornado warning zone? Because I mean, south of Wichita Falls is what I would say, but it's got to be a little more accurate than that. All right. Thank you very much. Brad Barton will probably be tapping into him again in a couple of segments and keeping you updated on the storms. It's going to get pretty nasty tonight. It's already nasty for you people up in the far northwest listening areas. Y'all are getting it, the rare purple on the radar right now. So stay right here on WBAP for the rest of your life, really. Coming up next on The James Show, we have some quick updates on the assassination attempt on President Trump, and more so the reaction to it. And then we're going to be talking to Lieutenant Colonel Alan West at 2:35. So do not go anywhere. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. Yeah, I don't think they're getting the message that they need to be getting. James Parker, News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. I guess more specifically, the shooting that they had at the White House Correspondents' Dinner. And Greg Gutfeld broke it down pretty good on his show on Fox. You're going to hear that, but also the selective reporting on this is something that both sides are doing right now. I'm doing it too. I'm not above the fray. But in this manifesto, the easy pickings is for the Team Red people to go say, look at all this specifically anti-Trump rhetoric. Look at how much it mirrors, mimics the rhetoric that you hear. And it's not just the media. It's, the politicians on Team Blue. It's what these kids are being taught by their favorite professors on college campuses. It's celebrities making montage videos of all these exact same or at least similar grievances. And the hard part to swallow is that this guy isn't really a crazy person. Not like some of these other guys. He wasn't hearing voices. He wasn't a psychopath that just wanted to exact pain on his way out like a school shooter. This was a guy who swallowed the hyperbolic narrative at face value and acted accordingly. If we really had Hitler running this country, wouldn't you be a hero if you killed him? We really need to start with that first lesson. We have got to stop with the Hitler talk, or this is going to keep happening. So I broke down the Gutfeld's long rant into 3 bite-sized pieces here.
I think this is a helpful assassination attempt because it is the first one to show that you can be radicalized by liberal smugness. If you read his posts and if you read his manifesto, it sounds like every smarmy, sanctimonious, self-satisfied pronouncement from a like Brandon Johnson, like Waltz, like Lou, the people who think they know better than you. This guy was not a crank. He was not deranged. Don't buy into that narrative because it lets these pompous off. He didn't do this because, as Jesse said, he didn't have voices in his head. He was just following orders. He was operating on a filter that said Trump was Hitler, and therefore it would be immoral if you didn't take Hitler out. So his filter is actually making him logical. He's the sanest one in the group because he took them at their word. When MS now says Trump is Hitler, he's the sensible one. He went out and went after Hitler. Now, if you told him he was wrong, would he listen? No, because you know this guy. You've run into this guy. They think they're right.
Yeah, and the problem is they still think they're right. We're still getting the both sides talk. Someone sent me a screenshot of like some rebuttal, because when we say like this, how come assassination attempts keep happening toward Trump and we didn't have any against Biden or Obama? And then they send you like a screenshot where it says, oh yeah, well, there are 11 assassination attempts against Obama and there were 9 against Biden. So actually Donald Trump has had fewer. And it's, you know what? Shut up. There was not. The Secret Service didn't have to go shoot anybody who was in the next room. The Secret Service didn't have to go cover him up after he got shot in the ear. He didn't have a gun pointed at him through a golf course fence on one hole away. What are you counting when the guy drove into the concrete post in front of the White House and the Secret Service had to shoot him? It's not quite the same thing now, is it? Gutfeld breaks it down into 2 lessons.
I think that this was a helpful assassination attempt because A, nobody got hurt. I'm not going to go with the conventional thing. Thank God, thank God, thank God. You can't write this off as a deranged person. And that is the lesson. You can learn how rhetoric turns into action, how there are security lapses in a hotel. How the hell was he not shot? Did he just trip? I mean, the Hilton, Paris Hilton is harder to get into than the DC Hilton.
And then one more here. The main stream of the Team Blue narrative right now is exactly what this guy was in. He wasn't in a fringe group. He wasn't in a Nazi group. He wasn't in a communist group. He wasn't even in Antifa or BLM. He was a mainstream lefty.
I think the biggest thing here, and it kind of goes back to COVID in a way. It's how scientific minds, this guy was an engineer, can do evil because it's unfettered to a higher power. He was making the decisions. He had control, just like Fauci, just like everybody that tells you, you are wrong, I know better. That was the whole point of his screed. When you read it, didn't sound crazy to me. It sounded like a guy saying, dude, I'm smarter than you are.
Right? All right, coming up next, Lieutenant Colonel Alan West is going to be on the James Show to talk about the midterm convention that the Republicans are talking about having in Dallas. And they're talking about it so much, I don't think it's a rumor anymore. I think this is going to happen. But you'll find out next on the James Show. News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. Hey, so are we getting a midterm convention in Dallas? I'm James Parker, News Talk 820 FM WBAP. My next guest to help me suss out this story, Lieutenant Colonel Alan West, coming back on the James Show. Is this happening? Because it's being portrayed, reported like a rumor, but it sounds like the plans are already in motion. Well, I think you're right to see a venue announcement because there's only a handful of places that can house such an event, and I'm thinking I'm sitting at the probably the prime candidate, the American Airlines Center. So why Dallas Fort Worth? Well, that's what the critics are saying. You must be scared of Tallarico if you're trying to shore up your vote in a red state like Texas. Well, if we do have a midterm convention, is this going to be a precedent that'll probably repeat itself and we'll just have a convention every 2 years going forward? That is abysmal, but if the right people turn out, we can get a pretty good result there. Lieutenant Colonel Alan West, what you up to these days? You feel a little more tension around your security concerns after what happened this weekend? All right. Thank you very much, Lieutenant Colonel Alan West. Appreciate you being on the James Show yet again. Thank you very much. Coming up next, we're going to be breaking down the manifesto of the White House Correspondents' Dinner shooter, and then we're going to break down the breakdowns of the manifesto coming up on the James Show. 800-288-9227. I'm James Parker on News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. Hey, homeowners, James Parker here for Rhino Shield. You see the clouds outside? Yeah, we're getting some bad weather. It's happening right now. Some of you are having bad weather right this second. Some of you are in the little purple spot on the radar. You know, if you're ever in the purple spot on the radar, you need to take advantage of the free home inspection from Blue Ribbon Roofing. I mean, not while it's raining, but as soon as it's over, give them a call, have them come over and check it out. If you see anything wrong, if you see any dents, if you see some of that fine little gravel start to roll off the shingles on your roof and fall on the walkway, if you see one shingle missing, take advantage of the free roof inspection, because if there's not a problem, then it doesn't cost you anything. If there is a problem, I'm going to save you thousands of dollars in unnecessary repairs because you caught it early. So as soon as this whole nasty storm is over, go to BlueRibbonDFW.com. Well, let's break down the manifesto. Actually, let's break down the breakdowns to the manifesto. I'm James Parker on News Talk 820 93.3 FM WBAP, your home for Markley, Van Camp, and Robbins. Now, in the manifesto, it's a good Rorschach test of your preferred media outlet here, because if they look at that manifesto and they see all the political stuff that was anti-Trump and anti-everyone in his cabinet except for Kash Patel for some reason, I don't get that. If you read through his reasoning, where he's talking about a pedophile and a rapist and protecting the Epstein, all that stuff, it sounds like it just came off of MSNBC or MSNO or whatever they're calling it now. On the other side of the political aisle, if you look at it and you only see that, boy, we sure do have to do something about gun control, well, then you obviously have a very different polarized set of lenses you're looking through. Let me do the CBS News one first, because this is just a dead end. This is what they saw in the manifesto. Now, this is the entirety of their coverage of the manifesto. They didn't go back beforehand or afterwards, talk about all the anti-Trump stuff and all the mainline Team Blue talking points that this guy regurgitated in his manifesto. They just focused on this one gun part.
In an email to family, timed to be sent just before the incident, police say the suspect himself expressed surprise at the security footprint. He wrote, "I walk in with multiple weapons and not a single person there considers the possibility that I could be a threat. The security at the event is all outside, because apparently no one thought about what happens if someone checks in the day before."
So they came away with, boy, we sure do have to tighten up our gun legislation and our gun control and our gun policy. Boy, we sure do have to. That is their takeaway from the manifesto. And I'm not even sure if that's the reporter's takeaway. He just wants that to be the takeaway of the people watching. And listen, everyone in America thinks that they're above average as far as intelligence goes, but half of y'all aren't. That's just what math is. And so for low intelligence people, they think they're informed, and that makes them even more dangerous because they're more steadfast in their position and not open to, the reasonable talk of, hey, maybe y'all need to tone down the rhetoric. Nah, maybe we need to do something about guns. Well, dang it. On the other side, Matt Walsh, he's more of a libertarian like me, but definitely on Team Red. He has a podcast where he and two other friends were breaking down what they saw from the White House Correspondents' Dinner Shooters Manifesto, and they found it comically politically aligned with the mainstream thought of the Democrat Party right now.
What is your favorite bit of this manifesto?
Objection number 4. As a half black, half white person, you shouldn't be the one doing this. I have no idea what that means.
Like, who shouldn't be doing it? The white person part or the black person part? It is a very bad manifesto. Hello, everybody.
Yes.
That's not how you start a manifesto. I apologize to my parents for saying I had an interview without specifying it was for Most Wanted.
Haha.
I think the show's America's Most Wanted. I think that's not been on the air for a while. But he's literally going into shtick immediately.
It's kind of indistinguishable from your friends' Facebook pages.
Right? All right, now we need to check in with weather. Brad Barton, WBAP chief meteorologist, is keeping an eye, has your back as we go through some bad weather today. What is the latest on our warnings and watches, Brad? Thank you very much. There's Brad Barton. We will be doing these updates throughout the rest of the show, and then after the rest of the show, that's actually when the weather's going to be kicking in for a lot of us. Stay put here. Do not do your normal routine where when you're done with WBAP, go on out with the rest of your life. You want to stick around for these storms. And I just feel so, I don't know, kind of convicted about this because we lost 2 people to bad weather over the weekend. We had another couple that broke their back and had their neck broken when their house collapsed on them. And if they had just paid attention to weather and maybe taken some precautions, I feel like we probably could have prevented some of that. So just keep that in mind as we're going through this bad weather. And there should be another round coming up later this week. All right, so I just played you the 2 takeaways, the 2 different angles that people see in the manifesto. Some people see, well, we've got to do something about the crazy rhetoric. Some people say, well, we've got to do something about the gun laws. I'm really interested in this both sides argument because I don't want to be, I accuse people of being totally thrown off course by their bias, and I don't want to be thrown off by my bias. I don't want to be led astray. I don't want to be easily duped because it fits my pre-existing narrative. So I've been trying to search out and find the other side of this and why people are so resolute and not having this conversation. And here's the worst montage I found where they say, well, you talk about we got to do something about the vile language coming out of the left. Well, what about all the vile language that Trump's done? And they made a montage. And number 1, it's not that bad. And number 2, even with this going on out there, Joe Biden's not dodging bullets. Y'all don't have any thought leaders that got shot in the neck in front of all of us. The Secret Service didn't take any bullets under the previous 3, 4, 5. When was the last time a Democrat took a bullet? JFK? So this comes from Zateo, and this is their montage about how bad it is. Tell me, is this even really that bad?
They are indeed the enemy from within, but this is who we're fighting. We will root out the communists, Marxists, fascists, and the radical left thugs that live like vermin within the confines of our country.
The Democrats are sick. There's something wrong. They're like terrorists.
The ultra-left-wing liars, losers, creeps, perverts, and freaks who are devouring the future of this state like a swarm of locusts.
The radical left, the Marxists, the anarchists, the agitators, the looters.
Members of Congress and even former presidents have been openly embracing vile creeds such as socialism, Marxism, and straight-up communism. In New York, they're trying to elect a communist, Zoran Mamdani.
We are going to defeat a communist known as Kamala Harris. Most radical left person ever to run for office.
Yeah, isn't that scary? Calling someone a radical left communist. Wow, that's not even close as being called literally Hitler. Racist, sexist, bigot, homophobe, Islamophobe, transphobe, all the phobes, and literally Hitler. Nazis, apartheid. Yeah, that's what you got? That's all I could find. If anyone wants to try and make the both cases, the both sides argument, I would love to have that out on the radio. I don't think you're going to call, but I wish you would. 800-288-9227. Let me just throw that out there. But coming up next on The James Show, if we don't have a change in the rhetoric, in fact, we have an increase of the rhetoric, how do we stop this? If they're not going to stop it, how do we stop it? Hear my ideas next on The James Show. News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. Well, hey there, fellow Texans. Welcome back to the James Show. News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. I am your host, James Parker. I know, good to see you too. Sorry, I'm just kind of in a hurry with all this extra weather talk here. It's kind of stepping on the vibe. And when we get you all covered from the weather, then we got to look at the big headlines of the day. And, of course, still probably the biggest story we're all talking about is the attempted assassination of President Trump at the White House Correspondents' Dinner on Saturday. Now, this is the third time. You and I have been regaled with your friends insisting this isn't an issue with just one side. No. Both sides have this issue. Do they? Do both sides have this issue? Because I got sent a couple of emails. I got sent some Facebook messages. I got tagged on some tweets where people were trying to point out, hey, Parker, look at this. There were 11 attempts on Barack Obama's life. Oh, really? Name one. When? The guy that drove into the concrete barrier at the front of the White House didn't even make it in? That guy? Did any of them shoot his ear? Did we have anyone like Corey Comparator who died when a stray bullet from a assassination attempt hit him? Do we have any casualties like that? Can you name them? Because we know the Ruth guy down in Florida. We know the Crooks guy up in Pennsylvania. And now we know this Cole Allen guy. Name him. Who was it? Oh, it happened 11 times. Did it? Whatever makes you feel better. Whatever makes you not have to accept the fact that your side has a problem with political violence. And we don't even have to look at the macro. Even if you can find some threats and allegations of threats in the Governor Gretchen Whitmer plot, dude, look at the Tesla fire bombings. By the way, when you see the people say, it was studied by such and such group, and it found that right-wing violence happens far more than left-wing violence. They're not counting the Tesla fire bombings. You understand that? You understand that in some of those studies, they're not counting the shooting of Charlie Kirk in the neck as a political assassination. Go look at what they actually count. And do they count like the January 6th, like 1,006 different violent acts of right-wing terrorism? Is that what they're doing? Are they calling Buffalo and El Paso right-wing attacks when they're definitely not? So no, you might be able to find a piece of paper that says I'm wrong, but your eyes and your ears tell you I'm right. In fact, everyone kind of knows it. Think about it. When you have the violent stories that pop up, even the ones that aren't politically motivated, isn't it overwhelmingly coming from one side of the political aisle? Isn't one political voting bloc overwhelmingly represented in the crime statistics and the nightly reports that you get on the evening news? And if you need the refresher, I've got the refresher. You can go back and I'm not saying there's zero political violence from the right, but I'm saying it's far outnumbered by the political violence on the left. And you can just look at the last year. You can just look at the last 3 months with the Muslim shooter at the Michigan synagogue, Muslim shooter at Old Dominion, the Muslims that threw the 2 IEDs in New York City at the protesters, the Muslim that was all ticked off about Iran, so he shot up 6th Street in Austin. We had the trans shootings with the mass murder at the hockey arena, the one at the Tumbler Ridge School in Canada, the ICE facility in Alvarado, the ICE facility here in Dallas where people died, Charlie Kirk's assassination. I mean, we've had a lot of this. On top of Trump's 2 previous assassination attempts, on top of Luigi Mangione murdering the United Health CEO, on top of all the ICE protesters throwing bricks at moving cop cars in Los Angeles. Do you remember all of this? Do you remember the anti-Christian mass murders in Nashville and Minneapolis at Catholic schools? The attempted mass murder of Christians at Joel Osteen's church just 2 years ago? No, we both don't have a problem. This isn't a both sides thing. And if they keep putting their thumb down on that, then we're never going to get to have the real conversation. They're never going to back off the rhetoric if they don't think they need to back off the rhetoric. So I'm not expecting a whole lot of things to get better in the future because the both sides argument is turning off brains on the other side and they're going to keep it up. Here's what you have to look for. Are they still calling you Hitler? Are they still calling you racist? And the answer to that is yes. Yes, they are. So expect more violence. Prepare accordingly. Coming up next on The James Show, SNAP benefits are full of fraud in other states, but in Texas as well. Find out just how bad it is on The James Show. News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. Am I the only one not on food stamps? Are you on food stamps? I'm James Parker, News Talk 820, 93.3 FM WBAP. You know, Garrett, you probably qualify for food stamps. I know what board ops make. But look, let me go ahead and do my little annoying libertarian thing where I don't think we should have social programs through the government. We should definitely have charity and help people who need it and raise money for poor people and kiddos and healthcare and St. Jude's Hospital and your local food banks and whatnot. But the SNAP benefits are something that I don't think should exist at all. So, yes, I have a pre-existing bias in the fact that I revel anytime there's bad news about such terrible and failed policies. It's absolutely having so many unintended consequences. It far outweighs the benefits. Now that we got that out the way, Brooke Rollins, your agriculture secretary, for some reason, that's who runs the charitable food stamp program. I get food, agriculture, I suppose. But they have the reporting. They now have done this thing where they're trying to get the information on SNAP benefits from all the states. Some of the red states are complying. None of the blue states are complying. I'm shocked. And now we're going to find out why the blue states aren't complying. Because after we've looked at just, when I say we, this is according to Brooke Rollins, they've looked at and analyzed one data set from one red state. And look at the waste and fraud and abuse that they have found in food stamps just by overlapping it with cars.
Previously, no data was shared. We had no idea where the taxpayer dollars were spent. Just one red state, the recent dump of data, we found SNAP recipients had more than 2,000 Tesla owners, 200 Alfa Romeo owners, more than 144 that were receiving food stamps were driving Porsches. Again, this is the data dumps we're getting because before we had no accountability on any of these programs. We now are requiring accountability. The blue states are suing us. They don't want to share the data. And can you imagine, this was a red state where there is actually some taxpayer accountability. Imagine what's happening in the blue states.
Yeah, I had to look up what an Alfa Romeo is. But someone on food stamps has one. When we talk about the waste, fraud, and abuse in the food stamp system, you can't picture a person. When we talk about, well, you're going to be taking food away from hungry kids, you can picture a hungry kid. When we talk about cutting these programs, you are told that hungry kid is going to be the one who suffers. But I love the metaphor that what if I came to you every day and I auto-drafted $200 out of your bank account, out of your checking account, and I gave you a pizza. Now, this program is not a good deal for you. But what if someone came up and said, well, we need to end this program? And the argument against it was they wouldn't be able to feed themselves. They would starve. No, they could buy themselves 10 pizzas with the amount of money that you would leave them with if you would just get off of their back. And so the obvious metaphor here is the trade-off between your taxes and what you're getting in return for your taxes. And if there's this much waste, fraud, and abuse, how can you support the argument that we wouldn't be better off doing this in the private sector? Something was demonstrated about a month ago. This guy was brought to my attention. His name's Undersander. And he did an experiment a few years ago in Minnesota where he's a millionaire. This is a guy who has millions in the bank. And he got on Snap just to prove how not only is it easy to defraud, it's fraud by design.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Rob Undersander from Way Park, Minnesota. I was invited to testify today because 10 years ago, I went public as a millionaire receiving food stamps legally. My wife and I received nearly $6,000 of SNAP benefits over a 19-month period ending in January of 2018. Why did we do this? To raise public awareness and work to eliminate a case of fraud by design.
Fraud by design. They're not shocked that Somalis were taking money under the guise of the Leering Center. They weren't shocked because they knew it was happening. It was fraud by design. And if you're on Team Blue, you understand the more people you can get locked in, the more money they can take from you and hand to these other people. That's their voting base. We go to the phones. This is Marty in Fort Worth. You're on News Talk 820, 93.3 FM WBAP.
Hey, James. Marty in Fort Worth. We met at Parker's Pours, last week or week before last?
All right. Hey, and so you got to meet Miss Parker.
I did. You got to meet Miss Taylor.
Hi, Miss Parker.
My suggestion, and I agree, I'd do away with all SNAP benefits, all the freebie programs, but let's caveat it. If you served in the military, if you retired from the military, let's say you have a clean criminal record till you're 25 or till you're 30 or something like that, these may automatically make you eligible for it. But right now, the story I tell is that at the beginning of 2020, I was in the process of getting my real estate license, and I'm retired military, and I needed help. I wasn't making any money, and I had some debt. So I applied for unemployment in the state of Texas. And unemployment, I know, is something different, but I got denied. And I've been paying into it since I was a teenager, and then served for 25 years in the military, and the state of Texas would not give me unemployment benefits. So that's all I had to say. That's the direction I'd go with it, make it merit-based, and let it happen.
Well, if you want to make it merit-based, you could privatize it, because all private sector charities have a merit-based system. If they didn't, they would run out of money and go bankrupt. So I think privatizing solves that problem.
I'm down with that.
Good stuff. All right. Well, hey, it was nice to meet you. Marty, we're doing it again. You know, the Parker's Pour is every third Thursday of the month. So if you're able to come out again, May 21st is our next one.
I am, and I'm bringing a professor with me.
Okay. Yeah. Bring a friend. Let's get this crowd going, because it's already turned into something cool. The last 3 times we've had the Parker's Pour, we've done a couple rounds of trivia afterwards. And so now we have this group that most of them there for, or a lot of them were there for all 3, or if some of them were just there for a couple of them. Now they already know each other, and then we have our own little friend group going. So come be a part of our little friend group. Aaron in Dallas, you're on News Talk 820, 93.3 FM WBAP.
Hey, I hadn't heard that report from Brooke Rollins, and of course, I think any reasonable person is against fraud in systems like SNAP. But one thing I think would be helpful for if you're going to talk about a story like that is also talk about the biggest part of fraud in SNAP, which is actually the skimmers, where people are stealing the benefits from people who are actually deserving of those programs. So I don't know if you've heard about that. I hadn't heard about the Brooke Rollins thing, but just wanted to bring some awareness.
When you say skimmers, do you mean like the credit card skimmers that they put on top of like gas stations, or you mean something else?
Exactly.
Oh, okay.
Exactly. Yeah.
Nice.
So there are people out there who are deserving of the benefits, but are getting them taken away. And then some other big pieces of fraud in the system. There are actually retailers who will sell products to SNAP recipients that are not products they should be receiving. That's also
heard of that.
Fraud.
All good points. Well, I'll look into more of the skimming thing, Aaron. I appreciate you pointing me in that direction. That is Aaron in Dallas, 800-288-9227. More on the fraud that is SNAP coming up on the James Show. News Talk 820, 93.3 FM WBAP. I told y'all we shouldn't have food stamps. I'm James Parker, News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. You know, you want to keep it right here for the weather, but also I'm going to keep you entertained until the weather gets better. Because what we're talking about right now is a clip I just played you from Brooke Rollins on Fox Business, and this was in the last 24 hours. But this storyline didn't start in the last 24 hours. This storyline started last February when Brooke Rollins got into office. She asked the states for data on SNAP recipients. Now, blue states didn't comply. Red states have complied. And they've done the analysis and investigations on just one of the red states and come up with some just nauseating fraud where it overlaps with luxury cars. Do I have to play that part again? I think I have to play that part again. All right. This was yesterday. Brooke Rollins.
Previously, no data was shared. We had no idea where the taxpayer dollars were spent. Just one red state. The recent dump of data, we found SNAP recipients had more than 2,000 Tesla owners, 200 Alfa Romeo owners, more than 144 that were receiving food stamps were driving Porsches. Again, this is the data dumps we're getting because before we had no accountability on any of these programs. We now are requiring accountability. The blue states are suing us. They don't want to share the data. And can you imagine, this was a red state where there is actually some taxpayer accountability. Imagine what's happening in the blue states.
Yeah, so Secretary Brooke Rollins was pointing out in this report, 141 people that were getting SNAP benefits drove a Porsche. 11 of them drove a Lamborghini. 3 of them drove Bentleys. 3 of them drove Ferraris. 306 Land Rovers. 244 Alfa Romeos, and I don't even know what that is. It's so awesome. Well, let's go back, because the last time we had a serious talk about SNAP benefits on the James Show and really in the national consciousness is during the scary government shutdown that happened in October through into November. Remember when that was the worst thing in the world? People were going to die, all that stuff. Now what's going on? We've been in the longest shutdown. Doesn't even make news. It's not even in the headlines today. Isn't that wild? But let's go back, because this is what Brooke Rollins was saying back in November, when you were getting all the scare stories about how, cutting off EBT is going to kill kids and destroy lives. And
Day one of USDA, February 13th, is we sent letters to every governor in America being very clear that no illegal aliens can use SNAP. 0, 0, 0. We asked every state for the first time in history, and this was in February, to send us their data and let us, with DOJ and a war room, actually start going through this data to better understand how this explosion of SNAP benefits happened under Joe Biden. We increased almost 40% on this program in just a couple of years under the Biden administration. Of course, we know they were trying to buy the election, but that's a conversation for another time. And since we have asked for that data, 29 states have complied. Of course, almost all the red states, a couple of couple blue states too. But in that data, and I haven't talked about this yet publicly, in that data we've studied about $100 billion in spend. We have found thousands and thousands of illegal use of the EBT card. We have been moving people off of SNAP. We've got almost 700,000 people, I think, we've moved off just since the president took office. We've arrested about 118 people. So this has been ongoing. But Rachel, to your point, what this conversation has allowed is a national spotlight on a broken and corrupt program. We found one guy in 6 different states getting a benefit. We found about 5,000 people that are dead who are still getting benefits. It is time to drastically reform this program so that we can make sure that those who are truly needy, truly vulnerable, are getting what they need, and the rest of the corruption goes away and we can serve the American taxpayer.
So there's no mechanism by which there is oversight in the food stamp program. No one's looking. They're just handing out the money. And if it goes to people in Lamborghinis, so what? If it goes to people in Porsches, so what? They could be driving a Bentley, so what? It could be going to people who don't deserve it, people who aren't qualified for it. There is no oversight. And finally, after decades and decades of us just handing out bags of money with no oversight, someone asked to see some records, and only 29 states complied. There's still 21 states that are saying, no, we're not going to allow you to have any oversight on how we're spending your taxpayer dollars. So the one problem I have with what Brooke Rollins just said, your agriculture secretary, is her conclusion is we need to reform this program so it just goes to people who need it. No, we need to eliminate that program. It has proven to be a failure. If you want these problems to go away, privatize it. Because if there is a private sector charity that gives out food stamp money so willy-nilly it's going to people in Bentleys and Lamborghinis and Porsches, then they're probably going to run out of money and go out of business. And the problem will solve itself. This is the times when I know I don't have a political party. I feel like I'm floating out here. Because you have Republicans who are supposed to be free market capitalists defending a socialist program. And you have Democrats who not only love it, they just want to spend as much money through the social program with no oversight. They're completely off their rocker. But who do you vote for if you're like me? Who do you vote for if you're a free market capitalist that thinks government should not be in the charity business? Who can you vote for if you want the SNAP program to end? Neither one of the major parties. Who can you vote for if you want the Department of Education to end? Neither one of the major parties. Who can you vote for if you want Section 8 housing and public housing to end? Neither one of the major parties. Who can you vote for if you want a balanced budget? Neither one of the major parties. Who can you vote for if you don't want any more wars? Apparently, neither major party. So these are not just issues that I think are important. These are the only issues that I think are important. And I don't have a party to vote for on any of them. So SNAP, not only should it go away, I am blown away that Republicans defend it as much as they do. Matt Walsh is going to have the final word. If we are going to have food stamps, can we at least have weight testing?
We need drug testing and weight testing for anyone receiving SNAP. We need a system that does not subsidize the grocery bills of 45 million people for the indefinite future with no time limit or restriction. And beyond that point, if the food stamp program is going to continue to exist at all, which I'm not convinced it should, it needs to have standards, strict standards. It needs to have a reason to exist. And for the benefit of every taxpayer and the millions of obese, profoundly ungrateful people they're feeding, we should end this particular economic activity. In its place, we should encourage food stamp recipients to engage in some actual activity, like, getting a job or going for a walk around the block. Hold them to some standards.
Eat a piece of fruit. Coming up next on The James Show, Mark Resnicek, the drummer for the Toadies. He and I are going to judge the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame nominees. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. Well, we now have the 2026 Rock and Roll Hall of Fame inductees. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820 93.3 FM WBAP. Here on the James Show, our resident rock star expert is the drummer for the Toadies, Mark Reznicek, who's coming back on. Welcome back, Mark. Hey, I think we have one of the more solid crops here for the inductees. And starting at the top, Phil Collins. Shoe in, I think. Do we really differentiate between Phil Collins and Genesis much? Yeah, does that get to happen very much? I don't know if two-time inductees is the norm, but that could happen for a lot of people. I mean, didn't Mick Jagger have some solo albums and Paul McCartney and whatnot? Oh, agree on that one. The next one, Billy Idol. Billy Idol is a guy that I thought was already in there. Does he have like a long enough career, or do you have a problem with this as a guy that just had one or two albums? Probably so. Like there's songs where I don't even realize it's Billy Idol for a few minutes. Like was that Lies Without a Face? Like that doesn't sound like a typical Billy Idol song. All right, so the next one, Iron Maiden. Now, Iron Maiden is another one that I figured they would have been in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame already. But I'll say one thing is they're a little before my time. I'm not really into hair metal, but when I go back and look at them now, the twin guitar things that they had going on, that's pretty cool. Well, the next one I know you're going to be some of an expert on, because weren't you in a Joy Division cover band for a while there? Okay, well, explain how there's a slash on this one, because it says Joy Division / New Order. Yeah, well, we don't see any other slashes here. So the only thing, not that I'm going to be super nitpicky about who gets in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. We've all accepted it's a pretty wide net here. But does Joy Division get in on their own without New Order? Does New Order get in on their own without Joy Division? I guess not. So they kind of had to smush these two together to make it happen, which brings me back to the Phil Collins thing. Why didn't he just get smushed in together with Genesis? Imagine doing too much acid to remain in Pink Floyd. That must have been all the acid. All right, so the next one, Oasis, that is right on time. That they're like a first ballot Hall of Famer. And then we get to I don't want to say the back of the bus, but when you list them alphabetically, they happen to be the last three: Sade, Luther Vandross, Wu-Tang Clan. Now, in years past, we've always said the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame isn't just for rock and roll. It's more like the Popular Music Hall of Fame. And as long as you accept that wide net, I think all three of those guys are pretty much shoe-ins as well. True. Right. Do they get the Phil Collins treatment or do they get the New Order treatment? That's a good point. All right. When's the Toadies going to be in there? Probably never. Well, I appreciate the optimism. You guys have a concert coming up in town. Let us know about that. Black Angels. Is that one sold out already? Because I'm thinking about. I haven't been in that yet, but we got WeatherCon that morning, so I'm thinking about doing WeatherCon in the morning, Toadies at night. If it's not sold out, I'm going to bug you to get on the guest list, all right? All right. Wow, dude, not for the ones in Dallas. You have 1,000 friends around here. But look, check out their new album. I just went to their listening party last month. It's called The Charmer. I got the clear vinyl one and also the CD version. I'm a big fan. Thank you very much. That's Mark Resnicek of the Toadies with your Rock and Roll Hall of Fame update. Coming up next on The James Show, we're going to get you updated on the bad weather. How bad is it going to be? How long is it going to last? Brad Barton's next on News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. All right. Before we get back to the news, let's get a handle on what's going on with the weather. I'm James Parker, News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. Welcome to the big show. But more important than the headlines that are floating across your social media right now, look out your window. A lot of clouds. We have some colors on the radar that aren't usually there. You know, we were lovingly joking about the purple spot that was over there by Wichita Falls. Now there's many purple spots, and this has gotten a lot bigger since the show started, just like you predicted, Chief Meteorologist Brad Barton. He was over there saying he expects them to get bigger, and the rainstorms that we were going to see hadn't even formed yet. Well, here they are. Yeah, I started that counting. Yeah. Well, it seems to be a big chunk of our listening audience isn't even seeing clouds right now. But am I judging this correctly? Over a long enough time span, we're all going to get some rain from this, or almost all of us are going to get some rain from this? They're coming together. Well, when is it going to be done with us? Because it doesn't seem to be moving especially fast. Well, I see why this is such an impossible job for you, because for some of the people that are far northwest of our listening area, it already has stopped raining. And if you're in the southeast, it hasn't even started yet. Yeah, so I don't even know how you're supposed to answer that question, but that's All right. Thank you very much, Chief Meteorologist Brad Barton. That baseball size hail, that doesn't happen very often. So look out for that. Maybe you can get a baseball bat, or probably going to need a baseball helmet for that. All right. Coming up on the James Show, we're going to take a look at some other local news besides just the weather. And did you know the city of Dallas is broke? Oh, you don't say. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. Hey there, welcome back to the James Show, News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. I'm going to try and balance the impending news of the bad weather with the regular headlines that you would be hearing about anyway on the James Show. And I feel like I get whiplash sometimes trying to keep up with what's going on in Dallas City Hall, because one day they tell us that they're going to spend $270-something million for a new practice facility for the WNBA team. And then the next day they're going to tell you that they're so broke they can't afford to pay cops overtime anymore. They're going to tell you they're so broke that they need new bonds, billions of dollars of new bonds passed. But they have a lot of money to spend on this theater or on this park or on these bike lanes or on a fountain at Fair Park or some art installation at the police academy. So it seems they have selective financial situations to where, depending on what the context is, they might be broke. WFAA was spelling it out this morning because today, City of Dallas is broke.
The week after city leaders toured the heart of finance, the City of Dallas now says it has a money problem. It just announced a hiring freeze, overtime restrictions, and suspension of non-essential purchases and travel.
City manager is going to have to get creative and literally cut any kind of excess that we have in the city this year to make this budget work.
Councilmember Chad West says these changes at City Hall are proactive. The budget is not in crisis.
I see this budget process being a tightening of the belt, just like every other American's doing right now in this economy.
Like all wallet woes, the city blames several factors. Pay and OT for cops and firefighters is $14 million over budget. So is healthcare cost. And people are buying less than the city expected, meaning millions fewer sales tax dollars.
When staff made that prediction on the sales tax revenues, it was before the economy took a negative turn that it has.
West says the so-called hero propositions, mandating the city increase pay to first responders and hire more officers, is contributing too.
Proposition S and U were certainly a factor in that.
The city's largest police association says, quote, our officers are not the cause of budget challenges. They're the reason the city continues to function safely despite them. Dallas is not alone. Fort Worth froze hiring last month too. But it is a sign next year's budget will be painful, West says.
I think it's an indication into how difficult these discussions are going to be in August.
When money for libraries, parks, and pools will be on the line. In Dallas, I'm Cole Sullivan.
You know, I remember telling you last week that they were refusing to close 2 library branches. Wow, we can't pull back on the services. We need all 30 library branches. You can't get by with just 28. Oh, really? You just have the money for that, and then you come back next week. We're broke. Next week we're going to come back and be like, we're tearing down City Hall and building a new one. Oh, you have money for that, but you don't have money for cops. You don't have money for firefighters. I don't buy it. Something is going on here, and usually the fact that they're broke, like in normal, coherent times, would mean something's got to get cut. We're spending too much. But it's never that. What's the answer? It's always raise taxes. It's always more spending. Up in New York City, they deal with this in a way that we totally expected.
New York City!
With their new communist mayor. And I don't say that as pejorative. He's literally a communist. Mamdani's just bragging because they're having similar budget woes up there. But what are they doing? Increasing taxes and loving it.
And to call on Albany to deliver additional revenue. One way to do exactly that is for the state to reduce the pass-through entity tax credit, or PTET, from 100% to 75%. Both the administration and the council have called for this over the course of this budget process, and we have done so because the PTET is essentially a loophole that allows high-income earners to reduce their federal tax burden. Who benefits? Millionaires and multimillionaires. More than 95% of PTET credits go to those making more than $1 million a year. More than 80% go to those earning more than $5 million a year. The PTET, in short, is a tax cut for the rich. We are not calling to eliminate the credit. We are rather asking the state for a modest reduction from 100% to 75%. That change alone will generate nearly $1 billion in additional revenue. Revenue we can invest in the buses that carry New Yorkers to work, the public schools that educate our children, the public parks and beaches where we spend our summers. And Speaker Menon and I will work with our partners in Albany to address the imbalance that has long characterized the relationship between our city and our state.
Isn't that Orwellian language? This new tax will generate revenue. No, it's not going to generate revenue. The people you're taking it from generated the revenue. You're just taking it. You're taking revenue that someone else generated. It's not like this policy is going to open a snow cone stand and you're going to skim the profits off of it. No, someone else opened a snow cone stand and you're coming back after the fact and taking their profits. It is such disastrous, immoral twisting of the language. And if economically speaking, you have to twist the language that much just so it's politically palatable for you to say it in front of a microphone, maybe you have the wrong economic worldview. Just throwing that out there for 5 seconds. Coming up next, Ilhan Omar thinks there's been 11 world wars, and the Republicans are defending her from investigations. If that doesn't make any sense, it's not going to make a whole lot more sense next on The James Show. News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. Yes, bad weather is here. I'm James Parker, News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. Well, the decision has been made. We're going to continue with sort of an extended version of the James Show at 5 o'clock. I hope you don't mind, Mark Levin fans. Don't hate me. It's just Mark Levin's not going to be talking about the weather, and we have people that are being affected by the weather. And when I say affected, that is me very much underselling the gravity of what we're dealing with here. Because I'd like to remind you, it was just this weekend we lost some of our neighbors here in North Texas to weather. WFAA.
Storms have moved on, but what they left behind is still scattered across North Texas. Debris, damage, and 2 deaths.
Behind us is just some of the destruction in Wise County after an EF2 tornado hit the town of Runaway Bay. That's about an hour northwest of Fort Worth. Our Janelle Ford is joining us live there now. Janelle, what are you seeing this morning?
Well, Dee and Matt, we are still seeing a lot of roadblocks. You see the one behind me. The entrances to the neighborhood down this stretch right here have several roadblocks set up. And that is because this morning officials say that right now one of the biggest concerns is keeping unauthorized people out of those hard-hit neighborhoods. And when you take a look at the video of some of those areas, you can truly understand why. This is what they're dealing with: homes ripped to shreds, RVs overturned, trees snapped, power lines down, and debris scattered across streets and yards. That is what crews are still working around this morning. The EF2 tornado hit late Saturday night with winds up to 135 miles per hour. We are also starting to hear some really terrifying stories of survival, including one family who had to be rescued from the rubble of their home. Take a listen.
My brother had to dig my parents out of the debris. It was terrible. So,
are they okay?
My dad has a fracture in his neck. My mom had a broken back, and my brother, he's doing fine right now.
That's why we do this coverage. That's why we're breaking into regular programming. That's why we have DFW's last radio meteorologist. Because we talk about some fun stuff. We talk about a lot of jokes. Do name that artist. We do dead or alive. But when it's time to get serious, we get serious. When the weather gets serious, we bring out Brad. And we just want to minimize that. I don't want to hear another story on WFAA tomorrow about someone else who had their back broken because they were caught off guard by bad weather. And we have the tools at our disposal now. We just need to be able to draw attention to the tools to keep people safe. And, well, we're just going to do what we can. So prepare for an extended version of the James Show today. I'm going to stay on past 5 o'clock until at least 6 thus far and help some people get through this, because I think almost all of us are seeing clouds right now. I see a scant few spaces in the WBAP broadcast area that don't at least have clouds. I think about half of us are already getting rain, depending on how you consider that dark green versus light green. But we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of these spots that are white and purple on the radar. That's super rare. Also super dangerous, not just for tornadoes, but for hail. And do not discount the damaging effects of high wind gusts as well. So stay with us. We'll keep you safe and informed coming up with Operation Stormwatch coverage on WBAP. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. All right, stay safe through the terrible weather. I'm James Parker, News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. I'm looking at you for our neighbors over in Parker County and Wise County. And y'all can stop with the jokes. Yes, of course, Parker County's named after me. Who do you think it'd be named after? Brad? So the warnings are starting to pop up where watches used to be. And it's kind of hard to describe the magnitude of the storm we're dealing with here, because on the radars that I'm looking at, because I'm very myopic and I like to dig in the Texas belly button, it's like, wow, this storm's going all the way from Wichita Falls to Waco. And then I look over Brad's shoulder and he's got the bigger radar. No, this is a storm that's going from right now sort of the almost Abilene area to Ohio. I'm past that. It's up in the Great Lakes. Like, what is it going on to? Like Lake Huron or Erie or one of those puddles up there. So no, this is a gigantic storm, but we had some individual cells that were popping up to the north and west of DFW, the metro area, and some of them are kind of globbing together and making larger supercells. But Brad said that's not necessarily a bad thing. It prevents them from rotating and becoming different types of problems. But it's so bad out there that we're going to be continuing coverage of Operation Stormwatch on WBAP through at least the first hour of the Mark Levin Show. One of the concerns we have is we lost some neighbors this weekend. We lost two of our neighbors, and we had some severe injuries. And the storms on the radar right now look worse than what we saw over the weekend. Now, does that actually manifest itself in not just tornadoes, but tornadoes that happen to hit where human beings are? That's the real determining factor, and we don't know all that yet. But when you hear reports of baseball-sized hail, imagine walking out right now. Are you in your house? Are you in a car? Imagine if you just opened the door and walked outside and you got smacked in the head with a baseball-sized hail. I mean, that could be fatal. And it's not unheard of for injuries to happen from hailstorms. So this is extenuating circumstances. We don't do this to scare you. We don't do this for light and transient causes. And it's super rare that we would break into programming for something like this, which I'm just telling you, this is the reason that we're doing this. We don't do it often, but it really is that big of a deal. All right, we have a new weather alert from National Weather Service has a new weather alert. Let's go.